Hey everyone, it's MulaPlease. Today I'm going to be making my video about Polar Peak. So let's get started. In terms of drop spots, all of them revolve around the castle because the castle is the most stacked place here. If you're landing at these houses, each side has 3 chest spawns and some floor loots, and then the castles themselves have the 2 chest spawns and then I believe the vending machine there, of course. I definitely wouldn't recommend landing at the houses because if you're landing Polar Peak, then you want control over the castle for pretty much positional advantages, and then you get more loot overall. So for drops, the best spot is by going through the windows. This can be done on either side, and you can access the throne room immediately. This is really important because you get 3 chest spawns, a couple floor loots like in the corners and such, and then this throne gives about 200 brick. Following that, underneath this is chairs which yield about 50 to 60 wood each, and then this table also gives 120. If you know that someone has landed in the dungeon, then there's a couple counterplay options you can do. It's unlikely that people will rotate into you from here because there's no quick way to get here except through the window, so it's a little bit RNG if someone else comes through the other window, but based on bus path there should be only one optimal way. So if you have the best drop, then you should be able to reliably get this. In terms of the counterplay options for the player who lands in the dungeon, what you have to understand is that generally they'll come in through this door to get up to this area. So let's say I have attack, right? So what I would like to do is, since that goes to the left, you can camp this and then just wait for them, and then no one ever is going to just check behind them, you know? So you can really easily get a free kill like that. Or let's say you open up like a heavy sniper, so you gotta make do with what you got, you know? Bait the chest ideally, open it, and whenever they go for it, I'd recommend going to the left side here because I don't know, it just seems less likely to be checked. And then that concludes this first drop spot. The second one will be the dungeon. However, people don't know about, not everyone knows about the side entrances into the dungeon. Since I see a lot of players go from the back over here and then walk their way in, that's really slow, and if someone does this method that I'm about to do, then they're going to get loot faster and literally be able to shoot just an unarmed running target, because see, they have to run through all this. I can glide right to this door and then get whatever loot spawns I have, you know? So, and if neither of these chest spawns, and you know that you don't want to contest him because maybe he's going to get that chest spawn first, then literally just sprint upwards and just try to get out of here. I wouldn't recommend ever landing at the top, because if a player decides to land on this part of the balcony, then they can really easily take all the loot that you would expect to get, which leaves the player up there with about 2 chest spawns and then maybe like 6 or so floor loot spawns. It's not bad for like a starting loadout sometimes, but if you're reliant on the chest spawns here, which there's 3 or 4, and then the floor loots here, then it's possible that the player that lands here will just rush you, since, I don't know, they're a psycho and they got guns. If they have a good loadout, you know? If you notice that a team does land on the houses, then I would recommend, let's say this is a duo situation, because as a solo you wouldn't want to do this, but one member of the duo lands inside this at the balcony and then works their way up. This will allow them to get a good amount of loot and then be able to pressure the teams down there with an AR. And in the meantime, the other duo can land at the throne room or something and then get the majority of the loot from the castle, giving you pretty much an immediate loot advantage over any other team. The teams that land in either of the houses won't have a lot of material, so if the player lands, throne, farms all that, and then farms everything underneath, and can equalize the loot between the duo as a whole, then there's no reason for them not to win against any other team that lands here. If you're shooting at players here, then I'd recommend creating this edit, because you can protect yourself from this side while pretty much having an entire view over this side. Likewise the other way around. The reasoning you can't just do it here is because you'll get a red X, and if you just right hand peek like that, then you are a little bit vulnerable. So I'd recommend just doing what I suggested. If you're uncontested, I would actually recommend landing at the top, because it allows you to systematically get all the loot, as well as the metal from these torches. Overall in Polar Peak there's maybe 300 metal in the form of all the torches as well as a meteor. By landing at the top here, you can also check if this hoverboard spawn is here, so you know how long you have to rotate. And because Polar Peak is so high, if you just have a glider redeploy, you can literally rotate pretty far, or just use a flintlock to negate fall damage and get down there, or a shadow bomb or anything. If you have none of those, then I'll show you another way to rotate in a second. In terms of rotating out, there's obviously the zip lines on both sides. I personally don't like to use those too much, because I don't like having, for example, if I'm using this zip line, I'll be taking it late since Polar Peak takes a long while to loot. However, other places like Happy Hamlet will also take a long while to loot. So if you're rotating at the end, then it's likely that you'll be seeing other players, and I kinda don't like dealing with that, especially if I'm trying to just rotate to the next zone. So what you can do is, you come off these two houses and you just get like, this way down isn't very costly. Okay, I got off, but it really isn't, and pretty underutilized, because it leads straight to this airstream, and you can make a pretty far rotation anyway. Once you get to the sky platform, I would recommend maxing out your metal here to the best of your ability, presuming that the storm isn't completely on the east side of the map. You can take some storm damage to max it out, since there's a lot of forged campfires in the game nowadays. I know that Linane and Tyler did that during the week that they qualified for Worlds. Since they landed Junk Junction, they would spend a long time farming and then just quad over to any forged campfire and just make up whatever health they lost. Similarly, you can take these turbines over to this area of the map, which has a couple of quad spawns and some hoverboard spawns, so you don't need to worry too much about being limited in how far you can go with these, since there is further rotation ability that's essentially permanent if you think about it, like, because it's a vehicle, you know? Well, I guess that's the end of the video. If you enjoy what you saw, leave a like, subscribe, thanks, see ya.